All right, we are back with your favorite podcast show of the week. This is Location Weekly, episode number 448, and we're recording live on January the 21st. Brianna, how are you?
I'm good. I had a long weekend. We celebrated Martin Luther King Day yesterday. And we celebrated my husband's birthday and your birthday as well. So everybody feel free to share some birthday love with the Thief this week because, the older you get, the longer you get to celebrate. I'm a firm believer in this.
I think it's pretty cool that Jerome and I have a birthday, in common with Martin Luther King. I mean, come on,
it's a pretty special
cool
thing. I know. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
And my oldest daughter, is now old enough where she learned about it this year in school. And so it was like really great just talking about it with her. And, she asks a lot of good questions and it's very confusing to her as to why he had to fight the fight that he did. But it's an amazing thing to celebrate. And, being here in Atlanta, it's also really cool because I've seen lots of the history around, the civil rights movement and all that he did for this country and the world, honestly. So lots of good things. But how are you doing? You had NRF last week. So
I had NRF last week, and it was good. It was a quick trip to New York. We did a small LBMA NRF dinner. We had like a good turnout for that. Some North American members, some European members. Karsten was there, and so it was a good time. And I did get on the trade show floor a little bit and went around and saw some of our members at their booths. And we have a special guest interview today that I did while I was there. All in all, a good week. And we're getting ready now for LOCA conference, which is the LBMA's European conference, coming up very quickly on February 6th and 7th. And that's in Wiesbaden, which is just outside of Frankfurt. So if you're in Europe or you can find your way to Europe, get over there and join us for that conference as well. Lots coming. And I just heard this week as well, breaking news that we are officially launching the LBMA's new chapter on February 19th in Puerto Rico. That's coming together pretty quickly. We had planned to do it last year, but because of political unrest and hurricanes and all kinds of other things going on, we had to postpone. But we're back on track. So February 19th, Puerto Rico will be happening as well. So
super exciting.
Yeah. So good show for you this week. We've got 3 industry news stories and only 2 member news stories because we have the guest as well. Just want to keep it sort of in a reasonable overall time frame there. But I'll let you kick things off.
All right, here I go. So we are kicking it off about the experience industry, right? I think that one of the big trends that we have seen probably over the past 5 to 10 years is that the younger generations tend to be more excited about experiences than, maybe things like job security, which probably was more interesting to our generations. But part of that is this growing industry, right? And tours and experiences and just, enjoying and immersing oneself in other cultures. And so part of that is a company called Tours by Locals, and they have gotten $25 million in funding from, it is from Tritium. I don't know if that's Tritium or Tritium Partners. So they are estimating that the tours and experiences industry by 2020 is going to be worth $183 billion this year. $183 billion this year. It's crazy, right? Big industry. And so you've got a lot of big companies, that have been in this industry. You think about like, Airbnb's experiences and some of the other ones. Some of them have done very well, breaking that $1 billion mark. Some of them have, struggled and closed up shop, but Tours by Locals is in 162 countries, and they do these tours, obviously, for either groups or one-on-one tours. And, you can really immerse yourself in what's going on in the culture and get, some understanding from somebody who actually has grown up there or really understands that, that area very well. So they'll be investing in technology for their payments and their bookings. So they have over 4,000 guides and 30,000 tours right now. And so I expect to see this grow. I don't really know Tours by Locals very well. But it's something that I always think about. Like, it's so great to really get to know what's going on, especially if you're going somewhere that's not super touristy place. Like, you really want to understand what's going on in the culture, and get a feel for the people and how they live. And so I think this is really cool.
Yeah, I like it. We all know that kind of, this generation is, they're a bit more sort of free spirited, a little more less concerned about the security and saving and things like that, and like to sort of partake of these types of things, these types of experiences, and who doesn't, right? I mean, I think you and I both would too, right? We're just there's other responsibilities, right? That we think about too. But at the end of the day, I think this is a really cool idea, interesting platform. I think it's always great when you can tap into local talent and experience and people, right? And we've seen this with various social media platforms related to travel over the years. I remember we covered way back, KLM did a project called Must See Map, where that you could online kind of look at places that KLM flew to, that you were thinking about going on a vacation, and then they had you sign up with Facebook, and then what it did was it crawled through your Facebook and looked at friends of yours or friends of friends who had been to that place, and then built you a personalized sightseeing map based on the recommendations, essentially, of where your friends have been. And the reason being is that we can go to TripAdvisor, we can go to all these things and kind of look at recommendations all we want, but we all trust or put a higher weight on our own friends, or our friends of our friends who've been to these places. It has like a different weight to it. And I think sort of the power of that, a little bit of that I see here, in that it's a little bit more personal, it's a little bit more hands-on touch than an abstracted review type of guidance that you get from just one of the big platforms. So I really like it. I think it's an interesting way to kind of link people together. It ties into that sort of sharing economy, and creating jobs and extra income for people. So I like all those aspects of it, and it sounds like they've got some good funding to kind of help grow it out, and they're growing right fast. They've got like over 4,000 guides, 30,000 different tours available. So pretty interesting stuff.
There you go.
There you go. All right, moving on to our second story. So Albertsons, which is a well-known U.S. Grocery chain, has been working with Pinterest for some time now, and they've been using the power of the Pinterest app, and in particular focused around recipes. And so essentially they're really sort of, they've had some good success in this partnership over the last little while. They're kind of expanding upon the visual discovery capabilities within the Pinterest app. And so essentially what happens is shoppers go into the grocery store and they can take a photo of an item's price tag and then be directed to Pinterest, where you can find a recipe that uses that item in it. They say 55% of Pinterest users now use the app while grocery shopping. That's a massive number. So they're really getting high engagement around this. I think people are looking for, breaking out of the routines of making the same things all the time. And I think from a sales perspective, this is great for any grocer, especially, obviously Albertsons is doing this, but they say they've got 72 million monthly active users in the US are on Pinterest, are engaged in food and beverage search inquiries on Pinterest. That's 76% of all grocery shoppers in the US. And Albertson says that they've seen sales on some items increase by over 500% since they've been doing this. So it's obviously working on driving incremental revenue. And in particular, what's really cool is they focus the items that they're showcasing on this kind of Pinterest tie back to recipe on Albertson's sort of their name branded product. So trying to drive their sort of, their own branded product, obviously, which they have higher margin on than, some of the other product in the store. So I like it. I think it's a great way to sort of tie in, okay, you're here, you're in the store, you're on location, use this app, see what else you can make with this product, what other things you need to buy while you're there, and kind of put it all together. So I think it's a great little experience and a great use of Pinterest in that way.
I agree. I am definitely one of those people that does use Pinterest while I am shopping in the grocery store at times when I have like a specific recipe that I want to follow, or something that I'm looking at ingredients, or, just trying to eat a certain way or follow a lifestyle. So I think that, Pinterest has so much opportunity to grow, and we've seen some recent, I think, pretty like big steps in that direction. And I really anticipate that, more of these types of partnerships are going to take place this year. So I really like that Albertsons is leveraging that, leveraging Pinterest and the recipes that they have there. I also think that what's interesting is, I was having a conversation with my team here. We were talking about the use of Pinterest and how it's mostly female driven, right?
Yeah.
Um, and I think that something that's interesting is one of the males on my team said, I use Pinterest, but I always use my wife's account. And so he's like, I use it for, DIY projects, or when I'm trying to do
Yeah.
something in the house, or, outside in the yard. I follow different things, and I've always had like great success. I really love Pinterest. So I think Pinterest has an opportunity to, further diversify their demographic in different ways through, maybe the partnerships with stores like Home Depot or Lowe's, or, things where men are already sort of shopping and geared towards going, or outdoor sporting goods, type of things. But I also think that this will continue on a trend with influencers, right? So you've got a lot of like recipe bloggers, people who write different, or has different suggestions in terms of like if you're eating paleo or keto or whatever it may be. And so being able to directly partner with a store, it would give, I think, an Albertsons a lot of leverage, because you've got maybe an influencer that says like, here's all the Albertsons ingredients that I used,
Yep.
right? And then here's the board on Pinterest. So levering those two platforms, I expect like more and more of this to happen. So I really like this story. And, I get excited when like businesses that are, that have a brick and mortar presence are actually being leveraged and helped by businesses that are online, like a Pinterest or, a Google search or something like that. So I think this is really cool.
Yeah. Awesome.
Sort of along those same lines, though, there's a new acquisition that's happening. I don't think it's finalized yet, but Google, it's been announced that Google is acquiring a company called Pointy, like to point in a different direction, or point in a direction. And what Pointy is, I did not know about Pointy, but I learned about this. And it's basically this scanner that small business owners can use to scan their SKUs that they have, right? So they have all of these different packaged goods in their stores. They can scan them, and they can connect it to their online search presence. So, when you want to see like what's inside of a store, if you've ever looked at this, when you see on Google, like what's in the store, you can easily integrate there. So it's a great option for, if you have maybe just one or two store locations and you want to drive more foot traffic when people are searching maybe for a product, they can see that it's nearby in your store. So Pointy is, I was thinking of a good example would be like maybe you're a specialty coffee and tea provider. So, you scan all the different specialty coffees and teas that you have. And whenever somebody searches for, this coffee store or this specific type of coffee, you carry it. And so it's going to help your search presence. This also can connect with several point of sale systems like Square and Clover and a few other ones that just integrate right in there. And it's like a free thing that business owners can do. And if you're not integrated with one of those point of sale systems, there's, a small one-time fee that you pay to get to use it. So it's a really cool thing for business owners. I don't know why I haven't heard of it before, but it seems like a great opportunity to sort of do that. They also have like a product ads type of a solution that they offer as well. So the fact that Google is acquiring it makes complete sense. Google is very focused on all these different local search, I guess I don't want to call it, they are solutions, but also features that they've been integrating that we've been talking about probably over the last 6 months or so, when it comes to the map and everything else. And so this seems like a very, natural progression of that, and just acquiring Pointy, which probably already has, I don't know how many businesses they have on the platform so far, but I would assume that they've, been doing this for a while. So I think this is a really great acquisition. And if you're a small business owner, check out Pointy for sure.
Yeah, no, it's a great little tool, and it's certainly from an optimization perspective in helping businesses be found online and knowing what products they carry. Uh, it's sort of like it's so simple, right? Like, I mean, that's the thing about it, right? Like simplicity is often the best, the best approach with, and especially when it comes to like a little device that you can plug in to POS. They've already built the integration to so many platforms. The fee, if it's not tied into one of yours, is pretty low cost. Um, I came across these guys, I guess I want to say like 3-4 years ago. We had done an LBMA event in Ireland where they're based, and I remember meeting a couple of guys from the team at that time. But yeah, I mean, there are thousands of stores now, in both North America and Europe that are using this, and I think it's so simple and straightforward that as you say, every small business should be doing this, because it's all about just the simplicity of plugging it in and just being found right online in search, in local listings, and people knowing what you carry and being able to find it quickly and easily, and based on your location. So it's brilliant. I think from a Google perspective, it's a no-brainer. I'm hoping these guys got a great valuation and an exit, because and don't get swallowed up in the behemoth of Google. But from their perspective, it makes a ton of sense, right? It's a logical add into all the data that Google already has, and let's not be fooled. This is about data, as everything is in our world right now. This just gives Google a lot more data about what's out there in the small business world. So a great acquisition and a great tool. So check it out, Pointy. All right, so that's our 3 industry news stories for this week. Before we jump into the member news now, I want to just shift gears a little bit. As we talked about at the beginning of the show, I was at NRF last week, which is the National Retail Federation's big show. For those of you who don't know what NRF is, it's the biggest annual retail conference in the world. Tens and tens and tens of thousands of people all gather in New York, all the big brands, a whole bunch of retail vendors, a great show. And while I was there, with my colleague Karsten, had a chance to stop by the booth of Worldline. Worldline is one of our LBMA members out of our European operation, out of the German operation. And I had a chat with a gentleman named Vincent Roland. Vincent is the EVP of Merchant Services for Worldline globally, and had a great chat about some of the product offerings they're bringing to market around payment processing and acceptance and all of that sort of stuff. But in particular, they've just put out a new research report, and we were talking about some of the findings of that. And by the way, that's a report that as of today will be available on the LBMA website as well for download. So so without any further ado, here is Vincent, and I'll let you hear what he had to say.
All right, exciting times here at NRF. We are here with our member company Worldline, and I'm chatting with Vincent, who's the EVP of Merchant Services for Worldline. Great to see you. How's the experience of the show been so far?
Very good show, very interesting. A lot of people, more than a year ago, I think, and which proves that the show is attracting more and more retailers and people interested by the evolutions of this market, impressive evolutions.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, I think what I've heard as well is higher traffic this year than last, and certainly more brands and retailers, wandering around the show and so on. One of the things I'm really interested in is you guys just released a new research report. This one right here, the future of payments, and what are some of the key findings, the highlights from that we can see?
Well, from a business point of view, what we see, of course, is an increasing demand for electronic transactions. A lot of markets have still a lot of cash and want to move out of cash. So, of course, it means a lot of innovations coming to the table to extract some of these cash transactions and move them to electronics. And what we see is that most of the retailers are struggling with three things. One is the cost of the infrastructure, and of course when you grow and you have more retail stores in more countries, the complexity is increasing, so you want to reduce this complexity. And so to bundle volumes, to bundle transactions.
Sure.
The second is the evolution to omni-channel. Right. That's been a buzzword for years, but now it's really a fact that you see people buying on the web and getting things picking in store, returning in store. And our customers have been used to have the two channels kind of not linked to each other.
Right.
So suddenly they come with the questions, how can you link all these things together and make our life and the life of the customer easy? The third one is the mobile evolution. I've never seen so many retailers, banks coming to say, we have a mobile app and we would like to use this mobile app in an easy way. Tap your phone instead of tap your card. But tap your phone to do what? Of course, to have a smart. Your card is becoming a smartphone, so it means it can do smart things. And the smart things of retailer 1 are not the smart things of retailer 2. So you start to see a demand for customization. Help me having something, a story for my consumers that is better than what my competitors are doing. And the last thing is, of course, that this evolution to more added value means creating digital applications on top of the payment applications. And you will see it on the new terminals that we just launched. What do we do before the payment? What do we do after the payment to get more value out of this consumer? So how do we make sure we identify this consumer early in the process? Welcome back.
Yes.
You cannot guess how many retailers know exactly how many times you came to the store in a year time, how much you spent. They have no clue. So how do I identify this person, can welcome him, and when the transaction is finished, how do I make him coming back? What kind of message? Is it an advertising? Is it a promotion? Is it a gift because next time you have spent at least 1,000 euros or dollars, we will offer you something. And all these things together are creating a demand for specific applications, specific use cases, complex interconnections between a mobile, a terminal, a back office systems, and we love that.
Yeah, and I think
that's our world.
The last part about for me that I'm always interested in is the data integration pieces around that, right? Because yes, you have applications, yes, you have payment terminals, you have loyalty programs, CRM systems, all these things. But historically, a lot of these things don't talk well with each other. And I think one of the challenges in the industry is how do we bring those systems together, communicating with one another, sharing data, because not everybody's going to buy from a retailer perspective, all the solutions from a single vendor. It never works like that, right?
No.
And so finding ways to kind of link these platforms together as you're building these new applications and supporting mobile payments and all these other things, as you said, you need to know who is this customer, how often they're here, how much they spend on average, how valuable are they to me, and this requires a lot of data integration. And so interested to know kind of how you guys think about kind of the integration and sharing of data.
It's a very interesting question, and on top of that, we are just in front of what we call the One Commerce Hub.
Yeah.
The goal of the One Commerce Hub is basically to have a central place where we can receive data from all the systems that are doing those transactions and store the data so that the retailer can do three things. One, make sure that all transactions are located in one place, so that when you do analytics, you have at least a base. And from all places means if you are operating in 15 countries, you will see the data of all the terminals and all e-com sites of the 15 countries in one place. The second, it's a place where you can interconnect to multiple parties. Worldline is a very open company in the sense that we offer services, but if a customer says, I do prefer to work with this terminal, with this acquirer, we offer the opportunity. And on the One Commerce Hub, with 50 acquirers connected, including ourselves. But if the customer says, in that country, I want to use this party, we'll send the transactions to these guys. And the last is the reconciliation. Financial reconciliations, you centralize it. And why do you need to centralize? Because most of the retailers today, they have multiple sources of funds coming in. Because well, in the past you had Visa, MasterCard, Amex, now you have Alipay, WeChat Pay, BlaBlaPay, Google Pay. And of course, where is my money? I have so many transactions on so many places. How do I reconcile, make sure that my money is getting in, and that if I have to refund, that I can do it also quite easily from a central place. And this One Commerce Hub is for us the kind of federation, APIs. So as a retailer, you have an API to connect, as an acquirer, you have an API to connect, and as a PSP, the same. And much more open but organized way to get the data in a central place and enable the analytics. Because at the end of the day, that's what you want, is make sure that you analyze if your flow of money is correct, you analyze if your sales are doing well. And you would be surprised to see that we see now customers using those data to basically analyze the performance of the sales they do. And not just, is it a good day? Did we sell a lot? But is this product still working well? And I had a recent example of a customer saying, I stopped selling a promotion because I saw through the transactions, not through my back office, through my transactions, that the promotion was having less effect than before. And that's the challenge. I think payment is a core commodity. But now, how can we add value? And of course, Apple Pay and Google Pay have been adding value to the payment, but it's not the only thing which is adding value. So, how do I get around that more data that I can use to be more performant?
Very good. Well, thank you. It sounds super exciting. I love
absolutely.
The Commerce Hub is amazing in terms of all the connections and APIs and links that you have in there. So excited to see how we can further support you in North America and globally. And really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Great, Vincent. Thank you so much for coming on our show and sharing with us and taking time out of the busy NRF schedule. We really appreciate it, and we look forward to working with you, more this year across all the LBMA network in North America and in Europe. So, thanks again. All right, on to our member news now. And as usual, I'll kick off this section with a story about our good friends at Gimbal. So they announced just over a week ago now a new initiative that they're calling Location Choices. And you can just go to locationchoices.org to learn more about it. But, as we've talked about on this show over the last little while, in particular, there is a heightened sense of awareness around location data and privacy in particular. Every vendor in the space is trying to figure out, how to handle that, better, differently, with more transparency and so on. So Gimbal has launched this thing called Location Choices. It's a app-based platform that enables consumers to opt out of sharing their location data with third parties. And a very interesting initiative. They're really focusing Gimbal this year on sort of trying to inform and educate consumers more about their data and their rights and so on. So certainly we applaud that as an industry. So the app, the Location Choices app, is available in iOS or Android mobile devices. And obviously we encourage you to download that and take a look. And it's just about control, right? It's about education, but it's about control. It's about giving people that ability to kind of just think more about it. And we're not telling people to opt out by any means. I think there's a lot of value in location data. We've talked about this on the show many, many times. And I think people do realize that it's an exchange and that their value their data is valuable, but without sharing it, there's lots of things that they don't get either, right? And so it's truly an exchange. But I think this is a noteworthy addition to the array of initiatives that are out in the marketplace today, just around education and awareness. And certainly, I think Gimbal is doing great work in this space. The reality is, especially in North America, there's a lot more legislation yet to come than CCPA, which is out there now. I know New York is trying to figure out what they're going to be doing around, the selling of location data. So I think, alongside all of that, I think we need to be looking to platforms like this. We need to be doing a better job of educating, and the vendors need to just overall just be way more transparent and a way more sort of authentic about, what data they're collecting, how they're storing it, how they're monetizing it, etc. And those that do it well will survive. So that's all I have to say.
Yeah, I really love this. I mean, I've always, had an appreciation for Gimbal and how they operate as a business. And something that we've had internal conversations about, recently in our 2020 strategy, here is how are we going to, give consumers choices like this, right? Even if you don't collect the data, right? Even if we don't participate in any PII data, which we don't. So, how do we still empower consumers to make sure that they have the ultimate control and can still opt out whether we own the data, captured the data or not? So I think that this is the right approach from a company perspective. And I think that, it also goes to show that, there's more than just a data capture aspect of it. It's what you do with the data and how, how it's leveraged. And so I think that this is definitely a strong choice by Gimbal, and we'll probably see some other providers follow suit, at least those who are confident with, kind of their place in the market and their value proposition. So.
Yeah, completely. And I think we will see a combination of government regulation and, industry self-regulation like this, right? And I think it's trying to find that balance between the two, will take time. But certainly this is a good step in the right direction from Gimbal.
Yeah, I agree. Well, our final story is coming from a company headquartered here in Atlanta. Delta Airlines is sort of trying to reduce travel stress and provide more of a one-stop shop for travel concierge, if you will, to Delta flyers. And I really like this story, actually. Sometimes I see things from Delta and I'm like, not that exciting, as we've talked about in the past. But I think this is something that's actually beneficial. And I actually think that I would use it, since I fly Delta quite often. But they're revamping their mobile app. So this mobile concierge idea. So basically they have integrated with Lyft, for example, so that you can use Sky Miles to pay for your Lyft, which is great. So you can order the ride, pay for the ride with miles. It's also designed, to like do this one-stop shop. So you can look at the weather, where you're going, TSA checkpoint wait times in some specific areas. I hope Atlanta is one of them, because this is something that I'm looking at all the time here in Atlanta. It could be like, sometimes I'm through in like 5 minutes, and other times, even if you have pre-check or anything else, like you just have to wait for a really long time here. So, just there's not really a lot of rhyme or reason all the time, but I love that this is something that they're thinking about just integrating right into the app. So, they reference that 89% of people feel stressful about travel. I think that that's like pretty, self-explanatory. So they also have something that they're going to include called virtual queuing, so that you can know not only when your flight is boarding, but also when your particular zone or seat is boarding. So that's beneficial, because if you are like zone 2, then maybe you have an extra, 10 or 15 minutes to, get that bottle of water, run to the restroom before you have to board. Whereas if you're, first class or something, you may want to hurry up and get to your gate. So there's other airlines that have been, testing out these different types of features. We've seen things with like American Airlines, Iberia, which is, a Spanish airlines, that are testing out things like passport scanning, facial recognition app that could eliminate, the need for travel documents, things of that nature. So I really like this. Anything that can, help you with the ease of travel, getting through an airport quickly, getting on your flight as fast as possible, and, not having to also be there like hours ahead of time on accident, I think is great. So I love this, when you're talking about anything that increases the experience that you're having as a Delta passenger, because of the features and functionality that they give you. I think that this is really what it's about. And these are the things that, you can control. So you can't always control weather delays, or, you can't always control mechanical issues with your flights, but you can control, the usability, feasibility, and the ease of use to which people can get on and off your flights. So I think this is a great announcement here.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think just making people's lives easier and using data to power all of that behind the scenes, I think, is brilliant. For me, probably the best part of this whole thing is the ability to use your miles, to pay for Lyft rides or for anything for that matter. I think one of the challenges for these airlines, and obviously I live in Toronto, so Air Canada, I'm a super elite Air Canada flyer, and have lots of miles that I rack up on a yearly basis. And, um, like any loyalty program, these miles are really a liability sitting on the balance sheet of the company. And so, finding ways to reduce that balance and get people to spend those miles and use them up, is a high priority. And so, I think they really should be looking at ways to just drive that down through the app as much as possible. And obviously, this is one way to do that. I know United a few years ago we were doing some work with them using beacons in O'Hare and helping people sort of navigate their experience around and using miles to calculate wait times before your flight and what restaurants were around and using miles to pay for restaurants at the airport and things like that. I think is a good experience as well. But yeah, I like this. I like that they've got the wait times for TSA. I like all of the ways that they're kind of pulling data together to help just make the experience better and reduce stress, as they say, which is the goal here. So I got nothing bad to say about this. I think this is a really great sort of way to upgrade the app and sort of enhance the feature set for their users, for their customers. And you're there, you can tell us about it soon, I'm sure, in Atlanta. So so that's it.
Not much to criticize this show, huh?
I know usually we got something bad to say about somebody, but I guess not today. Anyhow, so so that's our show. We'll just have to come up with like a whole show next week of stuff that we don't.
Super pessimistic, yes.
Very, very pessimistic. We'll balance it out. Okay. But so that's our show for this week. You've been listening to episode number 448 of Location Weekly. As always, we just thank you for listening and watching. If you have story ideas, please reach out to us. If you've got feedback, we want to hear about it. We would love you to give us some sort of, thumbs up, stars, rating, reviews, whatever, on whichever platform you're consuming this. Widely available on iTunes and Spotify and all, and Podbean and all those things out there. So we appreciate all of that. So thank you again for listening and watching. Have a great week, everybody, and we'll see you all next week for 449. Bye.
Bye.